સુખમાં સમરો દુઃખમાં સમરો સમરો દિવસ નિરાત જીવતા સમરો મરતા સમરો સમરો સૌ સંગાટ સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર યોગી સમરે ભોગી સમરે સમરે રાજા રંગ દેવો સમરે દાનવ સમરે સમરે સૌની શંક સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર અડસત અક્ષર એ ના જાણો અડસત તીરથ સાર 8 સંપદાથી પરમાણો અડસિદ્ધિ દાતાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર નવપદ એના નવનિધ આપે ભવ ભવના દુઃખ કાપે વીર વચનથી હૃદય વ્યાપે પરમતમ પદ આપે સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર એના મહિમાનો નહીં પાર એનો અર્થ અનંત અપાર એના મહિમાનો નહીં પાર એનો અર્થ અનંત અપાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર સમરો મંત્ર ભલો નવકાર એ છે 14 પુરવનો સાર
Pranam, Jai Janendra. Let's start with the prayers. Namo Rihantanam, Namo Suttanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loe Sabbasahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sabbesim Padmam Havai Mangalam. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loe Sabbasahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sabbesim Padmam Havai Mangalam. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loe Sabbasahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sabbesim Padmam Havai Mangalam. Veera Sarvasura Surendra Mahito Virambudha Sansrita वीरेण भियत स्वकर्मनिश्चयो वीराय नित्यं नमः। वीरातीर्थमिदं प्रौतमतुलं वीरशिघोरं तपो वीरे श्रीधृति कीर्तिकान्तिनिचय Shrivirabhadram Disa Kamathe Dharanendra Cha Swasitam Karma Kurvati Prabhustulya Manovrutti Parshanath Shri Estu Anguthe Amrutavase Laptitana Bandar Shri Guru Gautam Samariye Manavanchita Fadadatar. You all received the message that this will be the last class before Paryushan. We'll progress a bit further from last week when we were discussing Pap Tattva. So we have discussed Jeev, Ajeev, Punya, Pap, and we'll start with a discussion on Ashrav. But as I explained last time, we will need to learn a bit more about karma, and I'll introduce that topic as well. But we'll carry on with that when we resume the classes after Puryushan. In addition, today I will mention some basic things about Paryushan. It's coming in a couple of weeks' time. And I hope you're all getting ready and prepared for it. Are there any burning questions that anybody wants to start off with from last week or weeks before that that's relevant to our current topic? I'm just sharing some of the slides that we've shared before. I've incorporated the slides for last week, which there weren't any. So I've included the subject matter in today's slide pack as well. We keep on coming back to this, and this will be an ongoing point of discussion. And the fundamental question is that dharma is about making us better, making us happier, and ultimately laying the foundation for our progress to moksha. So making us better, not just as human beings, but when we use the term better, we are talking about enlightenment that exposes the virtues of the soul. And ultimately, we reach a state where all the virtues of the soul are slowly and then rapidly becoming exposed, because the karmas that obstruct all the greatness of the soul are being destroyed. And when all karmas are destroyed, the soul achieves moksha. And that is the ultimate state of joy and happiness. And everything else that we experience in all our existences, in all our lives, including the life of a Dev, is nothing in comparison to the joy of Siddh Bhagwant in moksha. And as Dharma teaches us, we are all capable of that. And the whole path has been laid by our Tirthankar Paramatmas for us to progress onto that path. But because of our lack of understanding, because of our attachment to all the attractive temporary states of happiness that we consider to be the ultimate goal and constantly strive for those, our progress has been limited life after life. And the ultimate goal, hopefully, that we want to try and achieve in this life is to break that misconceptions, to reach a state where we recognize the truth and we develop some liking for that truth, and to an extent experience some of the joy that the soul's very nature actually has within it. And once we experience that, then our Gnani Guru Bhagwans say that once you have experienced that, then you would not have any interest in all the other temporary states of what you might consider as valuable joys, like attachment to people and things, like wealth, like all the enjoyments that our senses crave for. So none of that would have any meaning, and our Shastras teach us that we have all experienced that countless times, and probably to a much greater extent, many, many times before than what we will ever experience in this lifetime. So ignorance, temptation, association with karmas. And as long as we stay attached to that which is not part of the soul and that which is outside the soul, we will continue to attract more karmas, and we'll come to that today. Just to remind ourselves, the enlightened soul therefore contemplates that I am Jeev, alive, Pudgal is Ajeev, not alive. The manifestations of Pudgal are temporary and destructible. Anitya, I am indestructible in my pure state. Pudgal Dravya is ignorant, it does not have the quality of self-awareness and any knowledge in my pure state. The quality Pudgal does not have the quality of self-awareness and any knowledge at all. In my pure state, I am omniscient, I have total knowledge. The soul asks itself this question: why should I have any association with Pudgal? Why should I allow Ajiv Dravya, that is karma, to control me and to make me dance like a mad monkey? And that is what we have been doing life after life. That is what our Shastras explain to us. Unfortunately, we find that difficult because all our achievements and all our small or great associations instill in us a pride of having become something in this life, and that pride in itself is part of the manifestation of what karma does to the soul. I, who have infinite power and have the potential to be the greatest in the universe, is being controlled by this Ajeev. Now revise some of the slides. The binding of good karmas is punya. When the punya comes to fruition, one has good material experiences, and when pap comes to fruition, it causes poor circumstances and unpleasant material experiences. When we were discussing punya about 3 weeks ago, we mentioned that we will focus our discussion on the punya which helps the soul's progress and pap which particularly hinders the soul's progress. And in that context, we spent some time discussing this punyanubandhi punya, punyanubandhi pap, papanubandhi punya, and papanubandhi pap. We also briefly discussed how do we acquire punya karma by being generously giving and helpful to the deserving, that is sadhu, sadhvi, shravak, shravika, and those in need, meaning anukampa dan, supatra dan, worship of Dev and Guru, good thoughts, good speech, good deeds. And how do we acquire pap karma? By indulging in the 18 pap stanak. And we've all heard of them. We didn't go into all the details of that, but hopefully during Paryushan we will have some time to go into some depth of the 18 Papsanak, because asking for forgiveness or for having indulged in that is part of the Pratikraman that we will be conducting every day for the 8 days of Paryushan. Again, you all know this or hopefully have heard of this. 18 Papstanak, Pranatipad, Murshavad, Adattadan. Pranatipad meaning violence or killing any life form. Murshavad, speaking untruth. Adattadan, taking that which does not belong to you or has not been given. Maithun is indulgence in sexual practice. Parigraha is acquisition and attachment to wealth. So those are the 5 major, the first 5 papstanak. And in terms of restricting our activities in those, a sadhu bhagwant would have panch or 5 mahavrat, meaning vows to not engage in any of these 5 papsthanak or sins. Similarly, a shravak, a householder, would have similar 5 anuvrats, which are significantly minor in comparison to the vows of a Muni Bhagwant. And then it goes on until the 18th, that is called Mithyatva Salya, and we'll discuss a bit more about that today. Ashrav is the main topic today. Punya and Pap is Ashrav as well. And the Nav Tatva Prakrana describes the 42 categories that the soul, when it engages in those in any life, will acquire new karmas, which then bind to the soul and will give the soul experiences which are in keeping with the type of karma that has been attached, and the intensity of that experience will depend on how intensely that karma was bound, and subsequently how that karma might have been modified as a result of continued thought processes and continued activities that would either elaborate or praise or hate that particular event that was the cause of the original karma. We discussed a few stories about that. If you read the texts on Nav Tatva and on the on karma, is a metaphor that is used in describing ashrav. If a person living in a house has all doors and windows open and the roof is in need of repair, it is not watertight or airtight, then all kinds of things will keep on entering that house, particularly dust. So if one keeps the house of the soul open, then there is an influx of karmas, and that process of that influx of karmas and binding of the karmas will never stop. But if one wants to stop the influx of new karmas, one has to close all the doors, the windows, secure the roof, lock the house, and stay within the house so that you are protected from everything else that is going to enter that home and trouble you in the future. So basically, to protect yourself from the influences of the outside world and the influences of more karmas being attracted and then being bound, you have to close the doors and the windows that make it possible for karmas to enter. In many ways, understanding this particular association of a house, the soul as the house, it is very apt and appropriate if we look at ourselves, is that the more open to the outside world in terms of our association, and by this I mean there's no escape from the fact that we are householders and living in the world, but how we engage with the world and how we react to all that is happening to us and what every day brings to us determines whether these doors and windows to our house, to our soul, are actually open or not. So an experience is one thing. An experience comes along as a result of the environment, as a result of particularly our karma, but and that will be inevitable because that karma has come to fruition and we will not be able to escape that experience because the karma is programmed to deliver what it was originally designed to do. And over the lifetimes, It may have modified to an extent, it may have disappeared to an extent, and then it will not show you any effect, or it may have been strengthened. So your original karma may have been mild, but may have then become much stronger, and it will absolutely give you the best or the worst experience depending on the type of karma. So all those doors and windows that we have left open in terms of our experiences and then reacting to them, if our reactions to our circumstances can be informed by the welfare of the soul. That means whenever we react to something, if we are looking at, does my reaction actually make it better for my soul? So if I'm getting angry at something that has happened to me, and I am blaming somebody for what has happened to me, the effect that has, meaning I have now made that particular incident much more important to me than it actually is. Because whatever that particular incident is changing or making you experience is related to your outside world. It has no permanence. It is temporary, and it will not change you, the soul, at all in the future. But the moment you begin to react to it in a negative way, by getting upset, by getting angry, by hating that person, then you're forgetting your true nature. And the moment we forget our true nature and stay within ourselves, means we have opened the door or the window, and we are letting more and more karmas to enter. And if we really forget ourselves completely and carry on reacting like that without any awareness of who we are as the soul, then that house is totally open to the elements. Similar metaphor that has been used before, that we all know, ashrav is compared to a boat that is floating on the sea, and the boat has got several holes in it, and unless you plug the holes, the boat is going to accumulate water and ultimately sink. So ashrav is these holes at the bottom of the boat. Somewhere is the practice of blocking those holes so that you are not allowing new karmas to enter. So somewhere is also like closing all the doors and the windows of the house that we are talking about. Two main categories of ashrav, asanyam and kriyas. It's a bit more complex discussion for the kriyas. There are 25 of those. We won't go into the details of those. I'll mention a couple, but we will look at the asayams, the 17 categories of asayam, and I think that will be very useful. 4 types, 17 categories. Asanyam. Sanyam means restriction, staying within oneself. Sanyam means to withdraw from the world within yourself. Asanyam means that you open yourself, you're not withdrawing, but you're engaging. Indulgence in the 5 senses. The first category is Indriya. There are 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, vision, and hearing. Indulging in any of this, I mean, we've all got 5 senses. We taste something and we like the taste. The process of liking it is an indulgence. And when one begins to indulge in any of the uh, the indriyona je vishayo hoi, vishayo meaning any of the senses, when they are indulged, when one begins to either like or dislike any of those, then one is acquiring karma, because the process of liking and disliking means that those things are more important to you. You've given them the importance that they do not deserve as far as your soul is concerned. However, when you're cooking the food, you obviously want to make sure that what you're cooking is good for everybody who is going to eat. It is safe, it is nice. That is not the same as indulging in your taste sensation. Similarly, touch, smell, vision, and hearing. So the process of liking and disliking, but the more you keep your senses open to stimulation from outside forces, the more likelihood is there to you getting engaged with the experiences of the senses. Therefore, withdrawing, meditation, of fasting, of staying within yourself, all the religious activities like Samaik, Pratikraman, Chaityavandan, Devdarshan, all those things are meant to bring you within yourself. Kashai, against indulgence in the 4 vices: anger, pride, deceit, greed, etc. Kashai, Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh. Does anybody know the meaning of the word Kashaya? It's formed with 2 syllables, Kash and I. Anybody? Okay.
Ajitbhai, in simple terms,
Mhm.
Kasha is like a butcher, a killer.
Mhm.
That's one word. The other Kasha is a passion.
Mhm. So the Jain term Kashaya,
Is a passion like if you're indulging in something, which means you're passionate about something.
so the word Kashai is formed of 2 syllables, Kash and I. Kash means sansar, and I means Janati sansar ave e Kashai. The Kasai, so Kashai is like Kasai. You use the word butcher. A butcher is Kasai. The sa there is an Saslano Sa, and the Shah in Kashai is Shashtkono Shah. So, and the word Kasai is predominantly used in Jain literature. It's not often seen in other literature. So Kash means sansar and I means that which attracts sansar is Kashaya. Okay. But you're right, Hasmukh, an indulgence, and it is something that will attract bad karmas. Can you see the full slide, or can you see?
Ajitbhai, if you just maybe go from current slide, click on current slide.
Um, is it on full screen or is it on?
It's on your PowerPoint, so it's not showing the slideshow.
Okay. No, I think I'll stop sharing and then reshare. 1 second. Okay. Avrat. Indriya Kashai Avrat. Vrat is when you are restricting yourself. Avrat means that you have laid open all the doors and you've not bound yourself with any rules about how well or how much you engage with the outside. So avoiding restrictions of wrongful activities. Avoiding restrictions, meaning if you want to reduce the amount of influx of karma, you take a vrat, meaning you say, okay, I vow to not kill any life, either deliberately or with carelessness. And for a sadhu bhagwan, that is called Pelu Mahavrat, Pranatipat Virman Vrat, with no qualifiers. For a Shravak, that vrat is Nirapradi Tras Jivne Marwani Buddhiye Marune. That means anybody who is innocent. Tras means anybody who I can identify as life by virtue of the fact that it is actually moving. So an insect which is moving, so life that we cannot actually see is not included in this vow, but obviously one takes precautions for that. Nirapradi tras jivne marwani buddhiye, meaning you don't deliberately kill that life. So nirapradi means any life that is innocent. So that keeps one open to the need for defending oneself when attacked. So Jains have been warriors and they have defended themselves and their kingdoms, and they have taken arms up, and that did not necessarily was not forbidden by their particular vow. So that is one vrat, avoiding restrictions of wrongful activities. Ratipat, harmful to other living beings. Vrushavad, speaking untruth. Adattadan, taking what is not given to you. Adatta, meaning unless somebody gives something to you, the word adatta mean devu, somebody, the owner of any particular thing, needs to give you permission to take that. So really, in the strict sense, for a Muni Bhagwant, that would be very strictly followed. For us, we don't necessarily worry about using certain things that are there for common use, and we feel that we don't necessarily need to take permission from somebody. But we would follow a lot of that as well in terms of being clear as to what belongs to who and whether we need to take permission or not. In other words, it's stealing anything, maithun, indulging in sensual pleasures, and parigraha means sense of possessiveness towards material wealth of all kinds. Indriya, Kashai, Avrat, and Yog. So all the activities of the mind, the speech, and the body are part of a Sanyam. So when we are engaging in Sanyam, then you aim to control the thoughts that go through your mind. So therefore, you indulge in meditation, you try and prevent your mind from taking you on a ride that will end up harming you, the soul. And as we have discussed before, the mind is very capable of attracting and inducing huge amount of karmas. And we've, I think, shared a lot of stories about that. Vachan Yoga, similarly, any speech, any words that we use and engage in, it is possible during that particular activity to acquire lots of karmas, good or bad, depending on the value of our words, how we are saying it, and what effect it has on the other person. Kaya Yoga, all the activities that we do and how it results in any harm to other people, to other life forms, all that. And Kriyas, there are 25 of those, and I'll briefly mention some of them. The 25 Kriyas, the way they are described are Kaiki Kriya, અજૈણાથી વર્તવું તે, જોયા પ્રમાર્જ્યા વગર ઉપયોગ વિના સુવા બેસવાથી કાયા દ્વારા જે ક્રિયા લાગે. Meaning, if you are careless when we are moving, sitting down, lying down, and not being aware of what possible life forms we might be harming, then that kaiki kriya, અજૈણાથી વર્તવું. You're all familiar with the word Jaina. In simple terms, it means care. And Jaina is again particularly a Jain word. and that is very greatly practiced by all our Muni Bhagwans. But as Shravaks and Shravikas, we are meant to practice Jaina as well in all our activities. So when we are walking, we look down to see that we are not crushing any insects that are there. We maintain care in every activity that we do to make sure that we avoid violence, hinsa as much as possible. Then adhikarini kriya, adhikarini ki छरी, चाकू, तलवार, घंटी वगैरह अधिकरणों द्वारा जे क्रिया लागे. So particularly manufacturing any of these instruments like a knife, a sword, ghanti, and again when we are using them, you would be careful and ensure that whatever happens when we are using them is as non-violent as possible. પ્રાદેશિકી ક્રિયા જીવ કે અજીવ ઉપર દ્વેષ કરવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે. Now, પ્રાદેશિકી ક્રિયા જીવ કે અજીવ ઉપર. So what is interesting here is Jeev, if you are getting angry with somebody, then we are angry at that person and hating that person. Or we may not hate the person, but we are angry. But it also mentions that ajeev upar. If we are upset or angry at something that is not working in a way that we expect it to, and it's giving us a lot of trouble. So we all get very frustrated when the computer doesn't do what it's meant to do, or we don't know how to modify it or how to make it do what we want to do. And we get upset about a lot of other things that are not working in the way that they should. It doesn't do any harm to the thing that we are angry or upset about and begin to hate. If we are angry, upset, and hate any person, then obviously that person is hurt. But when we are angry at things or when we are hating things, then we are harming ourselves, because that hateful emotion is harming the soul. Then paritapikni ki kriya, પોતા ઉપર કે બીજા ઉપર ક્રોધ વગેરે પરિતાપ પીડા ઉપજાવવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. પ્રાણાતિપાતિકી ક્રિયા જીવોના પ્રાણની હિંસા કરવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. આરંભિકી ક્રિયા ખેતી વગેરે આરંભ સમારંભથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. પરિગ્રાહિકી ક્રિયા ધન ધાન્ય વગેરેનો સંગ્રહ મારાપણાનો ભાવથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. So all these activities are attracting karmas. We all engage with them to a certain extent, but being aware of where the influx of karmas is happening helps us understand we cannot stop a lot of these activities, but the anger and the emotion and the attachment that we have to any of these activities can be modified, and we make them as utilitarian as possible and not associate any other things with them. So માયા પ્રતિ की ક્રિયા, માયા છળ કપટ દ્વારા બીજાને છેતરવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે. મિથ્યા દર્શન પ્રત્યે की ક્રિયા, અરિયન પરમાત્માના વચન ઉપર અશ્રદ્ધા રાખવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે. અપ્રત્યાખ્યાની की ક્રિયા, વ્રત પચખાણ નિયમ ન કરવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. So it goes on and it actually explains many different activities with associations with emotions, etc. There is one Number 16, સ્વહસ્તી की ક્રિયા આપઘાત કરવાથી કે પોતાના હાથે જીવોને મારવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે તે. So suicide is included in that as a source of bad karmas. આજ્ઞાપની की ક્રિયા બીજાને આજ્ઞા કરી પાપ વ્યાપાર આદि કાર્યો કરાવવાથી જે ક્રિયા લાગે. So we are not doing things ourselves, but we are asking somebody else to do wrong things. That has the same effect. So that is called Agnapani ki kriya. So all these different kriyas and the asayam of 17 different categories and 25 categories of kriya are described as the categories of Ashrav Tattva. The 42 categories of ashrava are included in the 5 reasons for binding karmas. Mithyatva, wrong belief; avirti, lack of restrictions; kashai, vices, anger, pride, deceit, greed, etc. Pramad, indulgence, lack of engagement with what is beneficial to the soul; relaxation of the focus on the soul; and yoga, activities of the mind, speech, and body. So these are the 5 reasons of binding karmas, and we'll be discussing a lot more on this when we resume after Paryusha. We'll start with the discussion on karmas in a minute. The 18 papsthanaks are included in the 42 categories of ashrav. Let's just think about trying to put this all together in a succinct format. If you want to understand our situation in simple terms, we are inherently complete and absolutely happy with total knowledge as the soul. But that particular qualities, those particular qualities of the soul are hidden by layers and layers of karmas accumulated over lifetimes after lifetimes. And while experiencing the effects of those karmas, because of our lack of awareness and understanding of what is happening, we continue to bind more karmas as we are experiencing the effects of those pre-existing karmas. And we may do a lot more new karmas because we are not really aware of who we are. So the most important and fundamental reason for binding karmas is given here first as mithyatva. Now, mithyatva in simple terms may be described as wrong belief in of the right Dev, Guru, and Dharma, but it's much more than that. One second. Okay. I can't find that particular page in Sunana Ben Vora's book, but let's just discuss this. Mithyatva, wrong belief, meaning lack of awareness of our true nature, is the most fundamental wrong belief. We identify ourselves with the body, with our mind, with the various achievements that we made, with our particular identity in this life. So, and we forget our true identity. So, in every life, we are obviously different with a different name if we are human beings, or if you are in Devlok, you got a different body, a different understanding, and we continue to identify ourselves with that particular life, thinking that that is all that we are. And that unawareness, that wrong belief, continues to make us do things that are not beneficial to the soul. So mithyatva is considered to be the strongest reason why we continue to acquire new karmas and continue in our cycle in from life after life. Avirti, meaning lack of restrictions. Again, coming back to the idea of withdrawing within oneself as the soul, meaning restricting our activities outside and our attachment to that which is not ours. Kashai, we talked about this, Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh, anger, pride, deceit, greed. Pramad. Pramad is not always separated when you read the literature on karma. Some will mention only four: Mithyatva, Avirti, Kashaya, and Yog. Pramad is included in Kashai. So, but to make us understand it a bit better, Pramad is called indulgence, lack of engagement with what is beneficial to the soul, relaxation of the focus on the soul. And Yog, activities of the mind, speech, and body. So these are the reasons why we continuously acquire karmas. There are 8 main categories of karmas. Each category obstructs the expression of the soul's fundamental property or virtue, gun. And all these 8 guns are expressed completely in Siddh Bhagwants. So therefore, we say that a Siddh Bhagwant has got 8 virtues. Siddhna gun કેટલા તો આપણે કહીએ 8. આ 8 ગુણ ક્યા અને એ 8 ગુણને ઓબ્સ્ટ્રક્ટ કરનાર જે કર્મ છે એ આ 8 કર્મો. Gnanavarniya karma is knowledge obstructing, like a band on the eyes that prevents you from seeing anything. So if you got a black band on your eyes, it is described as sort of producing blindness. So Gnanavarniya karma is like that. It's knowledge obstructing. It prevents you from seeing or knowing, and ultimately the soul knows everything. It doesn't need any help from any senses. So the soul does not need eyes to see, ears to hear. The soul knows everything about everything and all souls that are there. So it all Siddh Bhagwans, all Aryan Paramatmas, all Kevali Bhagwans would have total knowledge because they have got rid of all their Gnana Varniya karmas. And whatever little we know and learn, are able to learn, is as a result of our partially being able to expose that particular virtue of the soul by getting rid of some of the bad Gnanavarniya karma. So our variation in our understanding depends on the intensity of the Gnanavarniya karma that each one of us has, and that has got an infinite variations. Darshana Varniya karma, that which obstructs the darshan gun of the soul, and the way it is actually described is that it's like a guard who prevents one from meeting the king. So if you are going to the palace to see the king, the guard blocks your way and makes it impossible for you to see the king. So Darshana Varniya karma is described as that. Vedaniya karma, that which obstructs the indestructible and independent joy of the soul. So the soul itself is inherently joyous, happy, but Vedaniya karma makes us experience either pain or pleasure, and it is described or it is given a metaphor like a sword which is laced with honey. So you may taste some of the honey, and when you move your tongue on the sword, then the sword will cut the tongue. So pain and pleasure that are part of the effects of Vedaniya karma are because Vedaniya karma obstructs the fundamental gun of the soul of experiencing total joy. Moniya karma, that which obstructs the soul's virtue of knowing the truth, Samyak Darshan, and of the absolute and complete right conduct, Samyak Charitra. And Moniya karma is the most powerful, and when we start to get rid of this by getting Samyaktva, by understanding right from wrong, then we are making spiritual progress. So Samyak, it's described as being like alcohol makes the soul drunk and not able to understand right from wrong. Ayushya karma, that which prevents the expression of the soul's eternal life, it drags it from one life to another, the cause of the experience of birth and death, which is the opposite of the soul's ability of eternal life. So it is described as being like a prison. So it imprisons the soul in one body, and then we are released from that body to occupy another body. So Ayushya karma is described as being like a prison because the soul's absolute nature of indestructibility is changed to life, birth, and death from one life to another. Nam karma gives a visible body with various attributes to the soul which is without any form. So the soul is formless and non-material. This karma, Nam karma, is described like a painter who paints different colors, pictures, shapes, etc. So Nam karma has got a lot of varieties, and maybe when we discuss karma, we'll describe some of that, but it's a very detailed discussion. We may not have time to enter into all the different aspects of it. Gotra karma, Uch Gotra, Nich Gotra karma, it gives us a high and low status of various categories of hierarchy to the soul, which is neither big nor small. Great or ordinary, the soul is not great or ordinary, it just is, which is equanimity forever, a guru laghu. Now, this particular virtue of the soul can be quite difficult to understand, and I've struggled with that. There is one particular chapter by Parampujya Acharya Mukti Darshan Suriswaji Maharaj Sahib in his Anandgan Chovisi Vivechan, that he describes this particular virtue in great detail. And maybe if we have some time, we'll go into the depths of that. Again, that is getting into a very deep subject, but this particular virtue is very interesting. Antray karma, the karma which obstructs the infinite, absolute, and independent strength, power, virya of the soul, like the treasurer of the king's wealth, who controls what wealth the king can use to spend and what he can give away. So these are how the 8 karmas are described, and these are the 8 virtues that the 8 karmas actually obstruct. And these are the main categories. Then there are subcategories, which are then described when we study the karma granths. Okay. We'll end here, and I'll let you ask any questions if there are any. Anybody? Was this too much? I met somebody on Saturday, said we attend your classes and we really enjoy them. And I said, look, if you switch your videos on, then I know who is participating. So I recognize people, and it will be useful if you told me if there are things that you don't understand, then we will be able to make progress. I don't know if that person is on the class today. Anybody? Okay. Is this somebody asking a question? Kavit?
I don't have any from anybody, so
Okay, so then let me briefly start on pollution very in a short few words. Paryushan, the word means staying near your soul. Paryushan, Atmane najik revu enunam Paryushan. Upvas also means something similar. Upvas meaning Atmani najik revu, Atmani samip revu enunam upvas. There are 5 kartavyas during Paryushan that we will be talking about during the Astanika Vyakhyans on during Paryushan. So you'll be hearing Jayeshbhai, and depending on which area you are, they'll all have the particular events that will be part of the festivities, then celebration. So the Vyakhyans that go on in the morning. In all those Vyakhyans, in every Paryushan, we describe the 5 tasks that Jains are asked to perform during Paryushan, and around that time, depending on or during the year, depending on one's ability and one's inclination. We can discuss more of that later on, but I'm sure you will hear a lot of discussion on these 5 kartavyas during Paryushanam. The first one is Amari Pravartan, meaning making sure that we commit the least amount of violence during those 8 days, and we promote any activities that would save other life from any harm. And this activity, a lot of us would know as collecting funds for Jeevdaya, meaning helping Panjarapods to look after or to release animals from the abattoirs. And this happens all the time, but people particularly collect funds during Paryushan as part of this one important activity out of the 5. The second activity is Atham Tap. Atham Tap means 3 upvas. Atham means 3 upvas together. Those of us who cannot do all 3 together would do 1 at a time. And even if upvas is not possible, then there are equivalent numbers of Ayambil, Ekasana, Abhyasana, etc. that different people, depending on their ability and their strength, would try and complete during the year or around Paryushan as part of their annual duty as Jains. The third one is very important, and there's a lot of emphasis on that. That is called Kshamapana, meaning remembering all the wrongs that you might have done unto others, and particularly asking for forgiveness for people that you may have hurt during the year, and clearing your mind of any kind of dislike or hatred or remembered slights, and making up or rejoining your friendship with anybody that you may have broken a friendship because of any kind of activity. So it is a festival of forgiveness as we describe it. So there is a third kartavya or the third must do called Kshamapana. The fourth is Sadharmik Bhakti, meaning you look after your fellow Jains. We make it simply as having a meal together and maybe sponsoring that, but really it is particularly important to see if anybody within your Sangh is actually suffering from any kind of problem, any discomfort, any financial or health or any other kind of worries, and seek them out to help them and relieve their difficulties in the quietest way that you can, not making a big uh, deal out of it, but seeking them out. And this is an activity that a lot of our Muni Bhagwans actually particularly uh, promote, because they are aware of a lot of the difficulties that Shravaks and Shravikas may be facing, and a lot of them may not necessarily be able to go to other people to seek help. But it is duty of a Shravak and Shravika to find out if your fellow Jains are in any kind of difficulty and make all efforts to help them. And the last one is Chaitya Paripati, meaning you visit 5, at least 5 different temples. And that is another activity that we all engage in, or we try to engage in at the end of the Paryushan festivals or during Paryushan festival. These are the activities that we'll be hearing about. and we'll bring this class to an end now. I ask for forgiveness of anything that I might have said that's against the teachings of our Tirthankar Paramatmas and our Guru Bhagwans and teachings of Jain Dharma. जिनाग्न विरुद्ध कहीं बोलियो हो ते सभी मनुष्य काय करे तस्मिच्छामि दुक्कडम सर्वमंगल मांगल्यम सर्वकल्याण कारणम प्रदानम सर्वधर्माणम जैनम जीति शासनम. Wishing you all a very productive spiritual Parishan Parva. Thank you.
Ajitbhai, the Asayam, you explained really well.
Okay.
It's, all of it makes sense. Thank
Okay.
you for that.
You're welcome.
Ajitbhai, I have one question. It's Rashmita.
Hi, Rasmita. Yeah.
Hi. If you can't do any of the things in what you share, is it how many maras per day do you is required? Is it 12?
For an upvas, so particularly in relation to the malas, one upvas is equivalent to 20 Badi malas.
Oh, 20. Okay.
20.
All right. Thank
So,
you.
for that particular kartavya of 3 upvas or atham tap, it's 60 Badi malas. Badi
Okay.
means
Thank you.
all 108 naukar.
Okay. Thank you very much.
What I would really like is, because I think we are touching on a lot of the spiritual aspects of thing, but in terms of really internalizing this, it may be actually very useful if we began to look at some of the most basic in-depth understanding of the soul and some of the things that our dharma is teaching us. And increasingly, if we want to progress spiritually, then knowledge is one thing. Knowing the facts is simple enough, and one may be able to know a lot of facts and be able to understand a lot of the fundamentals of the religion. But unless it is actually put into practice and internalized to the level of experiencing the effects of that on the soul, it actually, all that knowledge may not actually take us very far. And two very important references that I will just quote. There is a recent Vyakhyan by Param Pujya Bhakti Yogacharya Yeshu Vijayji, where he mentions that sadhana marg ni andar, meaning when you are trying to progress spiritually, જ્ઞાનાવરણીય કર્મ ઓછું હોય અને તમને ઘણું બધું સમજાય, meaning you learn a lot and you're able to grasp that. He says that that is not as important as the reduction in your mohniya karma. So ultimately, unless your mohniya karma, meaning your rag, goes down to a level where you begin to discard your pride, your ego, and your rag and dvesh, all the knowledge that you may have acquired may not actually take you very far. And another thing that Param Pujya Acharya Mukti Darshan Suriswari Sahib mentioned in one of his Anandgan Chovisi descriptions was that there are a lot of 14 Purvadars who have, or no, not sorry, 14 Purvas, great knowledgeable Muni Bhagwans who have reached the level of learning a lot of the Purvas, not necessarily all the 14, but who have, the word that he uses is Purvadhar, may have lost their progress and have gone back to Nigodh. Now, even after getting so much knowledge and progressing so far spiritually, it is not difficult to actually fall right back to Nigodh, even though you would be in the Vyavahar Rasi and one would come back and have a chance. And there was one particular reference of a Muni Bhagwant who, as a result of his activities and his penance, actually acquired Tirthankar Nam Karma, but he had not firmed it up, meaning Aji Nikachit Notatyu. That means it wasn't guaranteed to give him the position of a Tirthankar. And as a result of some sermons that he gave that actually was against the right teaching and which misled the followers, he actually lost that particular Tirthankar Nam Karma that he had touched upon. He had not firmed it up, and then extended his future lives in sansar by many lifetimes. And there are many such examples. So there is a reference to what happened to Gosalak. There is reference to what happened to Agni Sharma in Samraditya Kevli Charitra and how he lost it. And then when his particular emancipation actually begins after millions and billions of lives. So the important thing that one needs to focus on is what kind of a person am I? Am I spiritually aware? Are my vices being subdued? Am I indulging in them? Am I prejudiced? Do I consider all life as equal to me? Do I value other people as much as I value myself? Do I keep on focusing on others' faults? Do I keep on not recognizing others' virtues? Am I egotistical? And these are the fundamental virtues that one needs to keep on working on. And in this lifetime, if we can progress on to firming up our virtues and slowly getting rid of our vices, then we will be making progress. And none of this is something, and we all have to individually work on them. So a teacher may guide us, but individually we got to begin to examine ourselves on a daily basis. So introspection, reflection on everything that we are thinking, doing, saying, and our internal happiness. So good guide is, are you at peace? Are you calm? Are you happy? Are you valuing those who hurt you, those who harm you? And again, that is again celebrated Kamte dharanendra cha sochitam karma kurvati prabhustulya manovrutti parshanat sriyestuva. So we value that detachment and seeing the benefactor and the one who actually hurts us as both as completely equal. And we want to all try and reach that state of vitaragata. Thank you all.
Ajitbhai, you spelled it out perfectly. And as I said, you've done it justice, and you've spelled it out. It's really on all of us
Yeah.
as to what we want to take with us.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're on this journey together, and the more we focus on ourselves and say, look, who am I? What am I doing? Are my activities in keeping with what is best for my soul? And just those simple fundamental questions. Is this right for me? Is this good for me? So in many ways, in words of Ayn Rand, selfishness is a virtue. Focusing on oneself.
Yeah, because no one else is going to save you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You've got to do it for yourself.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good Parishar. We'll all meet again after Parishar.
Yeah.
And all the best.
Thank you,
And
Ajitbhai.
if you are attending and we meet at the center, please introduce yourself, because I still don't know what Hasmukh looks like. I still don't know what many of you look like, and I won't recognize many of you. So please let me see you sometime if we meet.
Ajitbhai, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you, Ajitbhai.
Bye.
Micham Dukram to
Micham
everybody.
Dukram to everybody. Micham
Ichhami Dukram.
And a happy Parishar to all.
Dukram. Yeah.
Ichhami Dukram
Okay.
and happy
Bye.
Parishar Badani.
Thank you, Jeshben.
Micham Dukram Badane.
Okay, Rita Ben.